What's going on? What's going on? It's Lady Dre, and welcome to Healing Sessions. I hope that you're having an amazing, abundant, prosperous, loving, fulfilling, masterful, harmonious, purposeful day. I hope that this message finds you well. Okay, so check this out. The message for today is decade-long cycles are ending. Yes, decade-long cycles are ending. They're ending, right? And so I wanted to share some encouraging words with you and give you some food for thought, right? So today where I live, school started, right? So for the parents that have school agers, you already know just the hassle of just, making sure that you get the kids ready for school, school supplies, clothes, getting their hair done, like all that stuff. You already know this what's required when school starts, right? And so it's interesting because for the last 12 years, that's been my life, right? And a little bit over 12 years, but for the most part, I don't have any school agers anymore, right? And so around this time, years ago, and not so much in the last few years, but definitely in the past for sure, I would get anxiety around this time because, again, if you follow my story, you know that I have done a lot on my own, whether it was raising my kids, even raising myself, I have done it by myself, and so it is difficult when you don't have any help, right? And so it was interesting because I would get anxiety really bad around this time, because it was okay, I gotta make sure that they got their school clothes, their school supplies, making sure that they're, they have after school care, just all those things that come along with making sure that your kids are good, right? And so it was interesting because as I was out this morning and realizing that school started, I was like, oh wow, I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to do any of that. You know what I'm saying? And it was just so many times where it was just like I said, whether it was taken away from bills, whether it was taken away from the household, my kids was going to be straight first, So that means I had to work a little bit harder. That means I had to, make ends meet, and that's what we was going to do because they was going to have what they needed. However, that didn't mean that I wasn't, feeling anxiety or feeling the pressures of doing it by myself, but also too making sure that they had what they needed, And granted, God always provided, And that's what's so interesting now, even looking back on the situation. It was so many times throughout those 12 years where I was feeling so much anxiety, right? So much pressure and thinking that they wasn't going to be taken care of, or that God wasn't going to make a way, which he always did, right? But it was just interesting because I had to go through those things in order to learn that, right? To either strengthen my faith, right? To strengthen my belief that everything was going to be taken care of regardless if I couldn't see it, right? And so it was just crazy, and because I was just wow, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't know how I don't know how I'm gonna swing this, and for the parents that know, we love the summertime, even though it might seem a little bit more okay, who will watch them during the summer, but it's not the same when they in school, because like I said, you gotta make sure that they got lunch money, you gotta make sure they got their clothes, supplies, you gotta make sure they got after school care, you gotta and then back then I was working a 9 to 5, so I had to take off for doctor's appointments. I had to take off if the school called because somebody got hurt, and it was again, I didn't have that support system that allowed me to be able to put it off on them, right? And thank God that even when I was working a 9 to 5, I had jobs that were flexible enough to allow me to be able to do these things, And granted, I think too, because they knew that I was a single parent, so they had a little bit of leniency for me. However, again, thank God for that. But it was just a lot that went into making sure that they were taken care of, making sure that everybody's needs was being met, right? And so it just reminded me of just how how trying those times were, right? But even through all that, though, again, like I said, I gained so much strength, right? Not only through what I knew I was capable of, because I took care of them. You know what I'm saying? I took care of them. I did that, right? Of course, with God's help. But it was interesting but each year I felt a level of anxiety. And of course, by the time that, you know what I'm saying, the years ended as far as them being school agers, it became routine. I knew what I needed to do, you know what I'm saying? But that didn't say that in the beginning, I didn't feel away. You know what I mean? And that was the beginning of that cycle of me just really focusing on them, focusing on making sure that they was good, focusing on, and again, as we talked about in previous videos, you know, sacrificing yourself, right? Sacrificing yourself for the betterment of someone else, right? And granted, you know, my mindset then was definitely, I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to take care of them, right? Because again, they only had me. And so I was just determined in that, you know, I was really determined in that. And so, yeah, it was times that it was hard. It was difficult for me to be able to ask for help or to be able to get assistance, you know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing is, because at the time, like, I made too much money in my 9-to-5, so it wasn't like I could go out and get, like, you know, food stamps, or I can go out and get some kind of subsidies for you know, them, you know what I'm saying? And by the grace of God, you know, even with after school care, there was a free program where, you know, they didn't have to pay nothing, you know what I'm saying? And both of my children went there, and I'm grateful for that program as well. But it was just interesting because every time where I thought that God wasn't going to make a way, God made a way, right? So even in those cycles where I had those bouts of anxiety, I had those, you know, those moments of doubt, you know, God still provided for me. Excuse the rain if you guys hear the rain. And so I want to encourage you, because now that, you know, I'm no longer in that cycle, it is a little bit weird, right? It is a little bit different because, you know, I'm not so focused on, you know, the betterment of somebody else. You know, my children are grown. However, you know, they still have me in their life, and I love them, I care for them, but, you know, they're growing, you know, they're evolving. And so it's interesting that it's no longer, I'm not no longer like hands-on when it comes to just their day-to-day life, right? And so it was just interesting because, you know, I was just like, wow, I don't have to do that anymore. And it felt weird because I was like, okay, so what do I do now? You know what I'm saying? What do I do with my time? What do I do? And so it's been interesting because, you know, I've been focusing more on myself, right? Focusing more on just what I enjoy, what brings me joy, what brings me happiness, right? What brings me fulfillment. And so that's what I want to encourage you, because you're coming out of these cycles, of these decade-long cycles where you have been so focused on other things in your life, right? And I just said they were important because they were important, right? They were important for that time, for that cycle, right? But now we're coming out of that cycle and we're going into a new cycle, right? And yeah, it's going to feel a little different because you're so used to being in that old cycle, right? But now we're having new beginnings, right? We're being refocused, right? And revitalized too, because yes, as we were sacrificing for the betterment of someone else, like, God's gonna make way and provisions because we also did that, right? And so now is the time to focus on you. Now is the time to, you know, do the things that you love, do the things that bring you fulfillment, do the things that allow you to shine your light, right, even brighter, right? Because you shined your light even in that cycle too, you know what I'm saying? Because you did it when no one else could, you know? You did it when it seemed like nobody was there to help, right? You did it when it seemed like you don't even know how you did it. You understand what I'm saying? And so I want to encourage you to know that as we're going into these new cycles, right, and these new beginnings, know that you are equipped. You still have the tools that you have gained over that last cycle. You still have those tools, right? So utilize those tools and now implement it for yourself, right? Implement it for the things that you want to bring to fruition, right? Use those tools to be able to, again, shine your light and show people the importance of not only giving to yourself, but also to doing it with love and truth, right? And so I want to encourage you to don't be afraid of this new cycle. It may seem unfamiliar, right? Yes, you're going into new territory, and yes, it's like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be doing what again? And I know, because it's especially when you have children. And maybe it's not even the children, right? Say it's, a job or career, maybe you've been in a career for 10 plus years, and now it's like, okay, what do I do now? You retired from that job, you left that job, now you're going to go into something that's more fulfilling for you. Maybe even if it's your rest time now, right? It's going to feel different. It's going to feel different because you're so used to doing something else, right? And so I just want to encourage you to, not only give yourself some grace, but realize that you have paid it forward so many times over, and now it's your time to, whether it's rest, take care of yourself, focus on yourself, focus on your aspirations, focus on your dreams, your goals, your careers, your career, whatever it is that you want to do, right? But we're coming out of that cycle of decade-long cycles of catering to someone else, or taking care of someone else, or sacrificing for someone else. Now we're coming into that time where we're focusing on ourselves, right? And like I said, we're doing it with love and truth, but shine your light, right? Shine your light. Be your authentic self. Enjoy this time. Enjoy this time. You've earned it. You've earned it, right? And so whatever that decade-long cycle is for you, whatever it is, for me, I'll just give an example of what mine was. But again, yours can be anything. Your decade-long cycle could be anything, you know what I'm saying? But just know, like, this is your time now. You're coming out of that cycle into a new, and, do it big. Live it up, you know what I'm saying? Enjoy life, right? Enjoy this time, right? So I hope this message finds you well. Again, you already know. Love yourself to the max. Don't forget to be your authentic self. And, yeah, y'all be easy.